The views expressed in the following The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
All right, I hope you all made it on over here. This is going to be a little bit more light, though we are we're still going to probably talk about some of these things. Let me call Jim and get him up here. All right.
Hello?
Yeah, Jim, before you go into some kind of swearing tirade, we're live on the air.
Oh, no. Oh, good grief.
I did it a few other times with you. I'm just kidding around. Jim's one of the nicest guys to know. And so, of course, I always do that kind of thing. We had a nice long talk in the first hour about politics and the neo-Bolsheviks and the neo-culture revolution that's coming to our country and so on. So I wanted to try and lighten it up a little bit here, but perhaps we can talk about things like Korea and whatnot, because they are on the horizon, and one of your deals is to pick up energies and whatnot in that type of deal. So how are you doing?
Well, in that type of deal, he is, that part of the world is such a bizarre negative pull. And whether it's not just political, it's just bizarre and negative in general. I don't know why. To me, it feels like really, really bad vortexes all through there. And to get the people to do what they do and how they do it for the amount of time they do it is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
Like the steps that they're performing and standing at attention for hours. And, of course, if you're going to get killed, if you don't, I can understand why you want to do that. But I really feel that, hang on, let's see what the cards had to say about that.
I want to say, while you're doing this, we're switching on to a YouTube format, we're still on the radio, still on TogiNet, and also I have a stream for people who are listening via their phones or what have you. But we have built a new website. My brother really did a lot of it, and we're now streaming through that website. And that website is phone-friendly. And so people can be not only watching on their phone via YouTube, but they could listen as well. So we're bringing a reach out. And a lot of people listening aren't familiar with who Jim Shultz is. Now, I've known Jim back in the late 90s is when I met him. I was going to spiritual bookstores and whatnot and bumped into him as we both were working with, at first learning from and then working with Marcy Harding, who was a teacher of many disciplines. And so that's how we first met and so on. And throughout the years, we've stayed together. And since I've been doing the show, he's been doing somewhat regularly, once a month, every 6 weeks or so, coming on this show for people to call in. Most people have been typing or texting because it's odd to listen like on the phone, for example, or listen to your computer and call. So it evolved more into texting and calling. Emails and whatnot. But they would write in with their own personal questions, and all you would need to do is to have maybe your name and your question. And what Jim has done is using his psychic techniques, which, has helped me and explain a lot of things in my life. I have to admit, one of the two psychics that I'll even deal with, them and Dr. Ray Louise, who's a medical intuitive. And he will give information. Now, it's public, so naturally he's going to respect privacy on touchy issues and all that. But if you wanted to talk to Jim privately, you can send an email to me. Jim is not big on the internet, so he does the old fashion deal with the calls and whatnot. Or if you're in the Illinois, Chicago area, he does do local readings, so you could get involved that way. And I had several people have emailed me throughout the years and wanted to have a more detailed, personal discussion. And for people who've been longtime Feet to Fire listeners and now watchers, you don't see any psychics on here. And in fact, one of the things, Jim, I was thinking about is going into a lot of the political, philosophical, social type situations that I have been going into since with all this election. I started to wonder, what will someone who finds the show, hears the critical thinking analysis and whatnot, and perhaps agrees with it or finds value in it, and then all of a sudden there's a psychic on the show. It's like, huh? But I go beyond simply the mind into the soul and the spirit. And while a lot of, I think, psychics are partially right or they're deceived, there are individuals who can be used by God with the talent to help. It's, of course, finding one is the hard part, which is why I've been having Jim on here. So with that being said, you...
Thank you. That's very complimentary. I appreciate that. It is a very unusual... it's not a career that I've chosen. It's something I've worked with, and you and I both worked with the energy field for a long time. And when you're coming from an energy base and you realize there is karma out there, and if you're going to be trying to do some weird, inappropriate activity, we know karma comes back and bites you in the butt real hard. So I don't play any silly little games with people or try and persuade them to do something that's totally inappropriate. That's just far, far beyond my even thought process. Going back to North Korea, right now, it has to be something that has to be focused. We have to pay attention. We have to pay attention, even though there's signs out there that are showing us that it's bad, bad, bad. There is a slight possibility of things working out, but it'll be a miracle. So it would be for things to come back to a peaceful agreement with what's going on. Miracles do happen, but this would be a real miracle. So we do have an issue we have to face with it. Is he functional? Hang on a second.
While you're doing that, I wanted to mention that how I've been looking at this is that, looking at it technically, they do not have the capability to realistically send a nuclear weapon to Chicago. To USA. They could possibly send something out to South Korea or Japan or whatever. Probably not even that. They're very weak on this stuff. To make a intercontinental ballistic missile is extremely hard to do, and there's only a handful of people who have done it. And to make a warhead to fit on one of those things. If you recall, somebody wrote to me and said that, well, Korea has 5 satellites up in the air, and they could have a nuke hidden in it. And I remember, as far as I know, there were 2. They announced they launched 2 satellites. They had a picture of it. And, Jim, if you saw a picture of this stuff, I challenge you to look at this stuff and not laugh. It looked just like
they took... without even thinking about it, yeah.
They took what I think is a refrigerator, and they covered it in solar panels. And they said, here is our satellite. And I'm thinking, of all the satellites we've seen over the years, from the most simple, Sputnik, etc., to the most complicated, a refrigerator covered in solar panels, and they did launch 2 of them, and they were in low orbit because they couldn't get up high enough, and they did cross over the U.S., and they went over like the Midwest, and if they would have had a nuke in there that blew up, it would have caused a pulse, electronic pulse, which would have blown out a lot of our, if not most of our power. So there was, but it fell out of the sky. I mean, it just disappeared because they were so terrible. And then to be able to have a nuke fit in there, to be able to last and then trigger and actually work, I mean, you're asking a lot. I mean, now Russia, on the other hand, it can erase us as them. I don't want to say we, as the United States can. It's not me doing this stuff. So yeah, no problem. China's got stuff. Okay, no problem. But Korea doesn't have the backup. It'd be like if somebody came up to you, you're a you're 6'8", mixed martial art expert who can press, 400 pounds or whatever. And a guy comes up to you who's 3'2", 80 pounds, and said he's going to beat you up. Now, if you turned around and beat him up and he sued you, you would lose in court. Because one of the things is in court is you have to prove there's a legitimate threat. You can't just say, well, he's threatening to hit me. Even if he did hit you in a weak method, you don't have the justification to pound the guy into the ground. There has to be a legitimate threat here. And in the case of North Korea, yes, they can make a weapon. Most likely the best way they can do it is to send it through a shell, but they have to make it small enough to be able to be in a shell, let alone in a missile. They've had several missile failures. I mean, to come out and say, this guy can do all this damage. And secondly, what about, you go to South Korea, you put up the THAAD missile system, you got Japan there, we're done. Anything he shoots can be knocked out of the air. Because they're not even complicated missiles. It's not like they got, Russia's got some serious multi-warhead missiles. But these big mouths, in the neocon big mouths, are like, yeah, we'll kick Russia's butt. Really? When you got 1,000 missile warheads with nuclear bombs, which make Hiroshima look like a firecracker that's split off and go to all different directions, and you're going to knock them all out of the sky? Good luck with that, and bad luck for us on that. So,
well, what I've just pulled up here too with this, sometimes I just revert strictly to the energies of the cards. Most of the time I use myself, but sometimes when I have personal feelings, so I have to take my personal feelings out of this realm. But what I feel right now, there are some major changes that are within divine timing are going to be a surrender and release situation. Something's going to happen over there that is not expected. I won't say what I think it might be, but it's not expected. And when this non-expected event takes place, the truth will come out, and the truth will set people free. But I'm not saying exactly what that could be, but there is some issues coming to fruition that'll change this, and it's in divine timing, which usually tells us within 6 months.
All right, so now going to this event that's going to come out, you're not telling us because you're getting the kind of the generic energy of an event happening, or do you have a guess and you don't want to say it because you might be a guess, as opposed to?
What I would say, there's going to be a change, a surrender and release. And when sometimes people have to surrender, they have to surrender to what might precede them in their longevity.
I'm kind of thinking okay. To me, it's like the Korean as a race have a very high IQ. The North Korean has suffered tremendous nutritional problems because of the terrible drought they've had. Famine they've had. Drought was one of the reasons. And so but you still have people who are pretty smart. But then again, when you ever have these cults, like the Heaven's Gate had a lot of high IQ people in there and so on. So you have these people who are pretty clever by genetics, who are totally brutally overcome by this dictator who has been doing this in the family now. I didn't know that his grandfather was in Korean War. He was the guy in Korean War. I actually, started to look up these things. And so you have this background going into this thing where these people are just brutalized. And they've been taught. Oh, there's someone sent me the picture with Trump and Putin. Actually, they're looking a little. It's a little different picture than I've seen. But anyway, you have. It seems to me that if something happened to the leadership, right? Let's go back to Valkyrie. Back with Hitler. There were a group of people who tried to take out Hitler and use the continuing government to keep the government continually, keep in there, try and do that kind of thing. and it failed because Hitler survived and so on. It's possible that someone may do something like this, but he is so paranoid and everybody is so up against this. But it's possible with the intelligence we're talking about, if nothing else, something may happen. And if he happens to be overthrown, which is always possible, this could be fulfill what you're talking about, because then they could come to the table and say, let's work stuff out. Because Dave, who's a longtime listener, sent me some links, which, you know what, I'll put these up at the bottom of the show, with the show. He said at one point they were close and reuniting with the South. Now, I was aware of that, and he sent me some links. But I also saw that at one point, his father, when he was in charge, had worked something out with the West. They've stopped doing nuclear missiles in exchange for the United States building a light water reactor for power and various other type of things, sending food and whatnot. And as far as I can understand, the U.S. didn't do these kind of things. And I'm trying to think who this would be on. Like, it would be on Clinton, I think, that time frame. Clinton/Bush Jr.
And say Bush, yeah.
So this is what happened, and they didn't follow through on it, and so it ended up, in other words, a woman scorned, that whole thing where here you have a dictator scorned, which sent them back into this mode of saying, see, they're evil, they really want to get us, and so on. So one might argue that if we would have followed through on that point, since we're giving money away to everybody anyway, this would have been money well spent, and we wouldn't be sitting in this situation right now.
Mm-hmm. I really feel that, again, I'm thinking we know what happened to his brother, and nobody really has pinpointed. Everybody has an opinion about what happened to his brother and why it happened, but it happened. And other high military officials in that situation too. Now, what I'm thinking too is that we're dealing with some people who have had we're such novice in this in our experience with the world, generations and past history and stuff. And 1 second. And we're just babies. We don't have the experience that these people have had. I mean, they've been around forever and ever and ever. And so they have a lot more experience in issues that change just by the flow of the dice. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. And to me, it reminds me of Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. They're starving. We'll give them some cake. Well, these people are all marching in the street, and like you say, the nutrition isn't what it should be there. There are other factors that they're having difficulties with, and there's a whole lot of other people in the Far East countries. There's so many small little countries in there. I remember sitting here watching the start of the Olympics last time, thinking, where in the heck is that? Where in the heck is Burma? Where are all these? Where are these people coming from? And a good portion of them you assumed were from Africa because they have many countries there. But it turned out that the Middle East is very, very strong in many different situations. And I really feel within 9 months there's a positive change, positive direction for. I'm not feeling fearful, even though I do realize that this individual has some problems.
Okay. Now what? Excuse me. No, we have Trump, 100 days in office. He wasn't killed. He won. I think. Gee, I don't remember the last time we even talked. Was it before the election? Was it that long?
No.
No, wasn't?
Maybe not.
Wow.
I think we talked since then. I think.
Anyway, but I'm wondering. There's a couple of things that kind of bothered me. I've never been this gung-ho and attached, supportive, let me say, of a president. I keep my main memory, right? And he did a bunch of really amazing stuff. And then he bombed Syria, and I got a little nervous. Because most people would agree, and of course Russia says the same thing, that it was a false flag, meaning that it was the rebels who did the gassing, not Assad, and not saying Assad is either good or bad as an individual or a leader, but if he didn't do that, he got bombed, and that's a problem. And you see now Trump embracing more of the neocon war stuff. Now he's talking tough with North Korea. And there's talk about his son-in-law, Jared, and his daughter, who are more left-leaning, let's say, being an influence on him, and people like Bannon, who I was really cheering for, being less involved in the process, and it kind of concerns me.
Well, I think it does concern me also. I agree with you wholeheartedly. First of all, the last time we had any a situation of family protocol in the White House was the Kennedys. Everybody else was just kind of pushed aside, except for Bush 1 and 2. But they ran on their own accord.
Yeah, they were separate.
Yeah, but to have three family members in the advisory situation. But the one thing I will say in favor of Trump is the fact that he tells people he's listening to the generals, he's listening to the military men. He doesn't know these issues. He's leaving it to the people who need to know these issues and will work accordingly.
Yeah,
so
but I mean, the one problem though is you have the neocon generals, and then you have the people who have, don't have the war on their brain generals, and I'm hoping the latter is the ones that are winning here.
I really think so. I really do. I think I think we have to give him. First of all, we still don't know. There's still some offices in his cabinet that we don't know who they are. I don't know who. Did we ever get a Surgeon General?
Yes, but I don't remember now.
I wasn't sure whether we had one or not.
Trouble with my memory is that I don't remember things that aren't important to me. That's not necessarily a good thing, but I can remember in excruciating logical detail certain things that are, and I mean I'll write out a ticket at work for a delivery, and I'll have the date on it, and I'll have to sign their ticket, and they want the date, and I don't even know what the date is. I just wrote it. I don't even know. Because it's not important to me, I mean, I'm not defending it. It's a matter of life, so it's something they have to work with.
Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying here is I feel that he's the people that he's got working. He wants to be a figurehead. He wants to be the nice guy. He wants everybody to have a nice party. One thing I've noticed in the White House, which you've never saw before, there's flowers on the tables. When they're having these meetings, they all look like they're going to England or Scotland or Wales, where they decorate their conversational places. But now that sounds pretty trite, but you're bringing positive energy to this situation. Now, the other thing I would say for him is all the leaders of the world have come to him. He hasn't gone to them. Now, he is going
That is
to
interesting.
start going.
I've noticed that. That is interesting.
Yeah, you come to me and talk. I'm not coming to you and talk. So, and they came.
I mean,
They came
China,
from all over.
I mean, all of them, and Russia hasn't, but because, right now, Russia I think was looking hopeful, and then all the left-wing Russian fairy tales came out. I mean, it's ridiculous, and they're still pushing it. And I mean, I'm sitting here going, pinch me. What happened to critical thinking? What happened to some vestige of somebody having an embarrassment, at least, for having to go out and say this tripe? There's not even like, I can't go on the air and say this. I mean, this isn't, they do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing we have to be very careful of, and I'm a little bit skeptical. North Korea has been a pain for years and years and years, If you remember the TV show MASH, that was popular in the 50s. Or maybe 60s, I don't remember what.
No, it was the 70s, actually, but it was because it was going back to the Korean War.
Right, exactly. And it was part of a lot of crazy stuff that was going on there and stuff, and it hasn't changed a bit. I have a sneaking suspicion we've got more window dressing going on than we're aware of. Maybe it's a good thing we're not aware of it. But when you go back to see, I'm going back to North Korea again, when you've seen those marchings, when you've seen those thousands of people standing on the sidelines and not, and standing at attention and everything, it looks like Hitler's coming through again. Now, that is the image for some reason they're trying to portray. Now, whether they're portraying it or we're portraying it, I'm not sure. But I feel that there's a lot of this can be summed up as, okay, we got some serious stuff we have to do here, and we'll take care of it. But we got to have people talking about something else. And like you say, when you hear some of it goes on from the business news to national news to Chicago. It's like every station has something about this. They've talked about how wacky this guy is in North Korea. And that's all we've heard for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Now, as far as his 100 days, I don't ever remember any president having a lot of things accomplished in 100 days. I don't know if we ever cared about that. But
most presidents got a honeymoon. Trump has been in the trenches the whole time, and he's done a million things. So I'm really happy with that. I mean, if he wasn't didn't bomb Syria, and he was a little bit more relaxed about Korea, I would be much more happier at this point. Because there's 3 reasons why I went to Trump. Very simple, and I said it kind of in a comedic form. I said, taxes are killing me, Obamacare is killing me, and a war with Russia just might kill me. Those are my 3 things, basically. And they've already, first day in office, he gets sworn in, goes right back to the Capitol, signs in his first executive order, which is directing the collection arm, the enforcement arm of Obamacare to lay off. And so if you don't have insurance, and the IRS came out and said if you don't fill in your insurance part, they will no longer reject your 1040. That's huge. Right off the bat, it pulls out the teeth of Obamacare. First thing he did when he got in office, and then it's up to the Republicans to screw up everything else. They have a majority all the way around, and I don't know why they just can't do this stuff. It blows my mind. Of course, I have my theories. And let me get into something here if I can. There's been a lot, I mean, in other words, thousands, in the low thousands of arrests, not only since Trump has been president, but even since December, for pedophilia. And
I didn't know that.
And I mean, literally, it's probably under 3,000, but that high. And they're not. You won't see them on the news or CNN. You will see it, like if you read through the Tribune or whatever, you might see a little article on it. But a lot have been arrests on it, and the theory on all of the deep state has blackmail on all these people, whether it be pedophilia or drugs or just prostitutes. And if you ever seen the movie The Godfather, where they took and that one senator was giving him trouble, all of a sudden he wakes up with 2 dead prostitutes, and they say, hey, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it, and all of a sudden he's your buddy. There's a scenario that says a lot of these guys in the government have been involved in pedophilia, perhaps even as bad as actually killing children, blood drinking. I mean, you'd have to go through these research that's been done to even know that this stuff is going on. And so it's possible that these people have a blackmail, whether it be simply just fooling around, taking some bribes, all the way up. And so they're saying, no, you can't do this. And they're struggling between what we, the people, want and put them in there for versus what the system wants.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the whole that's what's got this whole world shaken up. And we're doing the same thing in Paris. Matter of fact, was the election today in Paris, or is it tomorrow?
It's the June 12th, I think it is. In fact, that's another thing I want to ask about Le Pen is because, for lack of a better word, she would be the French version of Trump, and she has gained in hugeness, but she's going against the whole monolith, just like Trump did here. And so I'm wondering if you got any vibes on that, because she is advancing.
She's advancing. She's going to be a powerhouse. The only problem is, I know people who travel to Paris periodically, and Paris is a Muslim city right now. Now, what they mean by that is, at this current time, there are more mosques in Paris than there is Catholic churches. They built more mosques in the city of Paris in the last few years than they have in Catholic. They outnumber the Catholic churches. So as far as what used to be a Catholic community is now strictly a Muslim community. So trying to get this transfer of people over and with that awareness, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but I think she has the wherewithal. And what's so frightening, I just did some work with a financial situation, and the person I was dealing with is very astute to what's going on in the mundane world, and which sometimes I try and really refrain myself from. But he was saying, he says, Jim, you don't have any idea what we would be dealing with right now if she would have won.
Yeah.
The market would have plummeted. We are working strongly to bring up the coal industry again. We're working strongly to bring up the automobile
Now get this. China, after talking with Trump, China canceled their order with North Korea, sending it back to them, and ordered coal from North Carolina.
Yeah, and we don't hear about that.
That's huge.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, China is literally, from one point, they were really getting mouthy. Trump met with them, and all of a sudden everything's fine. In fact, Russia was getting all worried about this, what's going on with Syria, and then Secretary of State went and talked with them, and then after disconnecting communications to control flyovers, after talking with the Secretary of State, Putin reinstated it. I mean, there's something happens when they talk with the officials that calm them amongst the storm around. So, Trump may be going to these people going, look, this is all a big bunch of hoopla. I got these knuckleheads here trying to make up stuff about me. This is all big. Don't worry about it. We'll do deals here. We'll do this and that. Something is working. So you have China who is saying they won't tolerate regime change, and yet China puts their people in there. They're starting to pressure on there. I mean, it's almost like if we would let China take care of it, it would be okay. But we have this neocon, people who perhaps look at missiles as phallic symbols, and they're just like, they got to bomb stuff. They got to blow stuff up.
Mm-hmm. They have to have that. Well, even with our past president, there was always a good guy and a bad guy. Whether it was the police and the black community, whether it was the court systems and the hospitals, whether it was doctors and the lawyers or whatever, there was always somebody who had to be the bad guy, and that doesn't always have to be. And we fought issues that we never had to fight before, through the media, through the politicians, through the attorney generals, and et cetera. And even our I forgot what they called them, the people who were trying to work with the taxes before,
Tea Party?
It was like Tea Party, yeah, that's what it was. Thank you. The Tea Party. What was done to those people was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
And we had other things that happened that so many people got reclassified. I think he had more press secretaries. Every time he turned around, there was another person as a press secretary for him. And so there was a lot of unrest within the power play in Washington itself. We're in Chicago. We've got Rob Emanuel now. He was a big guy in Washington. Now he wants to be mayor of Chicago. I don't think so.
Little Godfather is what he is.
Yeah, right. But it's just kind of like, that's interesting. But when we have these, we have to be really careful. Like you say, if they would just tell us what is happening along the way, what are we striving for? Where are we headed to? What is going to be the situation? We're working with Syria. We're working with North Korea, and I think Russia has enough problems as is with their own economy. They're not doing that well.
Well, this is what. Let me ask you, since you deal with energies, and I have in the past, but I'm not a professional here. But the way I kind of look at stuff is that the way energies tend to work, whether they be angelic energies or your own personal experiential soul looking out from a higher perspective, you're following trends of energy, almost like a river following the flow through space-time, what have you. And what I look at now is that something happened to disrupt the flow. And let's say it's not even Trump per se, but it's the whole Trump movement of people getting up off their couch and voting. People haven't voted in 20 years. I mean, after Trump won, I went to the grocery store and I had a Trump hat on. I had guys who were like, looked like they were 80, coming up to me and going, "We did it." And he's giving me like a fist bump. And they stood up. You got this lash, and it wasn't a white lash. It was a lash of the American worker who was laid off, regardless of color. You got the old school guys who, whether they fought in a war, or they worked for 50 years. You have the sons of those people and the wives, the daughters of those people, and so on. Right? You have this. Wait a minute. They're laying down. I picture like they're laying down. They're starting to suffocate them. They're going down. All of a sudden, they came back, right? And boom,
right.
This energy, which was unexpected, because all the leaders, the powers that be, had all these plans. Everything was going fine. People were dying. Trump stood up, and his standing up got, all right, so here we are. This boom, energy came in and screwed everything up. So now there's no energy flows to follow because it's so disruptive. It's like if you're driving down a highway and you're planning to go to Las Vegas, then all of a sudden you turn off the road and start driving off-road. It's like, well, wait a minute. I don't know where I'm going. I don't, I have a general idea. I have a compass. Am I going to be able to get there? This is where I see that if I go to you as an energy individual and say, okay, is Le Pen going to win? Is Trump going to do this? You're not going to be able to answer it out of energy because, if you go to the higher ups, they're going to go like, I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities here that we're all kind of scratching our head too. It's almost like God knows, but he's not telling because that's cheating. But everyone else working up there, from whether you want to go from Satan to Michael, they're all kind of going like, wow, we got to watch this. This is unexpected or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. What do you think about that? Is that too simple?
No, right. You're right and you're wrong.
Well, that sounds about right.
But what you're missing out on is, in order to have balanced energy, you think you have to have, let's say a chart from 1 to 10 would be 5 and 5. A negative is always 10 times stronger than one positive. So when you're talking about, let's say, if I was to say to you, "Gee, Jim, you're really doing a good job on the radio. I think you're going in the right direction. Things are really starting to perk up for you. I think everything's going to be great within the next 6 months." But then I'd say, "But God, you got to cut your hair." You would remember the fact that I said you got to cut your hair for the next 5 years. You would forgot what I said beforehand. So in order to have a balanced energy, a positive has to be 5 times stronger than one negative. And the Democrats know this, and everything they pull out is negative. I mean, that part where they said that he liked girls peeing on him, I thought, I never, ever thought I'd hear that in a political debate. You guys have reached an all-time low here. The fact that they were spying on his Trump Tower. Yeah, they were. They've been spying on his Trump Tower ever since they built it. You don't think they have the ability to spy on whoever they want to? You're crazy. Because they do that. Do we like it? Not really, but it's part of what we presume is security for us. Right. But trying to go to the bank and take $10,100 out. You ain't going to get it. You can't get more than $10,000 without filling out forms. So what I'm saying here is we have to have a positive. What he's done in 100 days, we can think of 10 great things, but he should have done 50 great things in order to ward off the negative. And the negative is so incessive, and it's so down and dirty. And let's go back to some of our good governors in Illinois. Let's go back. I mean, why is Blagojevich still in prison? We let these guys go who have drug problems, who are dealing drugs, and a couple murderers. We let them go, but Blagojevich is still in jail. That doesn't make any sense. Some of our other loyal politicians. Interesting.
Had my mic off. I hit the wrong button here. I'll tell you why Blagojevich is in prison is that he stood up against the banks in favor of the little guy, and that's what really pushed him over the edge. So he's going to stay in there, just like he's going to stay in there until the maximum because of his stood up against the bankers. You never do that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think our whole problem right now in this situation is the fact that he's done incredible things in 100 days. He should have been able to do 5 more that would have been outstanding to ward off the 1 or 2 negatives that they keep throwing out. And they are not going to relinquish it because they want to have what they've always had. They want the full control. And they want us to give us all our money so they can decide where the money goes. They want to be Robin Hood. Well, that didn't work for Robin Hood, and it's not working now. And what's really interesting is I have clients in Bulgaria. They're coming up with an election there, and they're looking at some independence that they've never had before. There's a lot of places all over the world that are changing. Look at Canada. We got that young guy up in Canada who has an attractive wife, by the way. But so does Trump. But
it doesn't help Trudeau much, though.
No, but Trudeau is a different politician than they've ever had before. So this movement, this awareness of people who, like they had that 100-day march in Washington, all over yesterday, I think it was. But they noted, they had a little bit out there, but not much. But they also had people out there who were saying, hey, this is pretty good. He's also supporting the police. And the big thing that it blows my mind, we do not have any prisons in the United States that don't have a fence around them. Why can't we have a fence around the country?
Yeah. Well,
we don't. I mean, when you put all those prisons or all those retention centers, they all have fences together.
you know, you might not have heard this because this hasn't been big on the media, mainstream media, but Ted Cruz introduced a bill that would earmark the money confiscated from El Chapo, the drug lord that they got from Mexico, who was $18 billion they confiscated from him. They wanted a bill to put that toward the wall. I mean, wouldn't that be, isn't it?
That is terrific. I hadn't heard that.
Okay, yeah, you're not going to hear about it because it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And we can't have good ideas about the conservatives on the liberal media.
And the other thing we have to realize is, okay, how much is it going to cost the wall? But how much does it cost us every month to maintain people who have illegally crossed over?
Yeah.
Now, we had that guy in Chicago who had served 2 or 3 serves in Afghanistan and whatnot, and did his military thing and everything else. But he came out and he was selling drugs, and they arrested him. Now, they found out he's illegal. Now, how do you get in the Army when you're illegal? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, how does some of this stuff just doesn't? But we are coming up to a major change all over the world, and it can't be the way it was for years and years and years. Even in England, I don't know too much about the woman who's in charge there, but I think she's a little bit radical, but not terribly. But she's going to. When you see what they do, they finally got rid of wearing their stupid wigs that they've worn for centuries when they're in Parliament. What? Why are you doing that? It's like, that's so stupid. But it doesn't make any difference what they're doing and how they're doing it, but it's ironic that we haven't evolved. And that's our big thing with the Middle Eastern countries. I was at a event with Wayne Dyer one time, and somebody asked him about what was going to happen, and he says it's a very difficult situation because America has always went to their destiny. The Middle Eastern countries are locked in their history, and they can't change. So if we're going to our destiny, maybe it may not be the best, but it is a step in the right direction. So I'm still very, very much in favor of what he does and how he does it. And true.
Well, especially since we look at it like what's our options? What if we would have had the other one? So I mean, I hate to go to that one because that's kind of like a. But I mean, you got to remember there only had 2 options at the end there, and so. But we're getting kind of close to the end here. You got anything you wanted to go through? We got about 8 minutes or less. We can go at any time.
Well, we still have a lot of weather conditions. I mean, Florida's having their fires with all their humidity. How does that happen? But it does happen. Florida's got some major fire situations. We had the floods in California, and fortunately, that's finally subsided substantially. But there's a hotbed in California, whether it's the school that wouldn't let the girls give her talk, but there's an unsettledness in California. So I'm really concerned about that, and I do feel that right now I am a little bit concerned with the island nations like Cuba, Oh, I know what I'm going to bring up too. In a minute, I'll go back to that. Cozumel, Cancun, Mexico, and that. But more, have you seen that show on TV with By Belize? That's a new upcoming thing, and they're trying to get people to invest money in Belize and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
one of the most unsettled banking situations in the world. And I don't think that would be a good idea. But I would tell anybody, no. But there's a lot of, through the Caribbean and some of the island nations that are in South America, there's a hotbed going on, and there's some real problems that will pop up before the end of summer. So just pay attention to that. I remember 4 or 5 years ago, my financial advisor was, you got to buy Petrobras. Yeah, Petrobras. It's Petrobras, I think it was. And it was the oil company in Brazil. But no, I'm not going to do that. I'm glad I did. It did go up quite nicely, but it sure came down fast, too. I think our money situation is going to be quite unique because we have so many people who are sitting on such large sums, individuals who are sitting on such unbelievable sums of money, not just corporations, but individuals. And this situation is a little tedious because some of them can be, it's almost like a James Bond. It reminds me of some James Bond movies. So it's just kind of strange in that situation. Now, the one thing else I want to bring up is, now that you talk about El Chapo's money, what did we get from that airplane that was full of cash that the Democrats sent over to? We got a couple prisoners.
Now, see what? If you listen to the scenario behind it, is what that money is claimed to be is the money that was intercepted going back to the 70s. When Iran had their deal, they put a bunch of stuff on. They confiscated their banking routines and stuff, and it was kept on hold. And so, what the people who are semi in favor of that say that really what the U.S. was doing was releasing that money, which has accrued interest along the way. So, even if that's true, they gave an additional. And this barely got a lot of coverage. It's like $200 billion in various other incentives. And I'm trying to figure out why would Obama do that at the tail end of his last year? It just seems suspicious to me. Like, well, I'm going to throw this in at the last minute and get this done. Why? What's the point behind it? Did they think that Iran was wronged by this taking of the money, and they realized that the next administration won't give it back, so I might as well dump it out? I mean, I have problems with the whole thing. I'm not even saying whether they should have or not have had it. It just looks awkward at how it all happened. And they hid it. No one would even know except the word got out. And they gave them cash. Who gives cash? I mean, cash? Well, they demanded cash.
Airplane?
And they demanded
cash.
An
airplane? But the American dollars, it was francs.
He didn't want francs, and he wanted American dollars and then people say, because American dollars is worthless, whatever. But still, it's like, if I was giving it back to them, it's like, I'm going to give it back to you how I want to give it back to you, Mm-hmm. And so for them to demand cash, why would the U.S. go, okay, we'll give you Swiss francs, and it wasn't euros, there's another something. Why? I mean, it's just there's something going on there that is really weird.
Very much so. And I've got one more to tell you.
Well, that's your job, though. You're going to go, well, you see what happened was, being a psychic of world renown, this is the real deal behind it.
Mm-hmm. There's more to it.
Oh.
Much more. And the other thing that we just touched on lightly was the fact that there's been so many people released from federal penitentiaries, I can't say it right now, and other holding places that were, so they considered them low-class prisoners. Well, if you remember, maybe a month ago in Chicago, we had that judge that was killed on the South Side because his girlfriend, somebody was upset with his girlfriend. Yeah, right. I think there's a whole lot of revenge stuff going on, and it's really scary. It really is, because these guys were in prison. They were in prison by either a bad lawyer or a bad judge and everything else. And it's a scary situation. It's really a scary situation. So I wish I could be happier at this time, and I am happy. I really am happy, because I do see a change.
All right. Well, what can we see? What are you looking for? You said weather. Weather's.
Mm-hmm. And I think the stock market is up higher, and I think he's going to come up with three things through between May and June that are going to really make sense, and it's going to work. And I feel that this will be a start of the changing in our attitudes here in the United States as far as working situations. I've already seen places that have signs outside looking for a mechanic, looking for counter help, looking for drivers, looking for instead of putting the ad in the newspaper, that they put these signs out in front of their stores. And I haven't seen help wanted signs in a long, long time. And I'm really happy about that. So I do feel that there's opportunities to, if you have a little bit that you'd like to invest in the country, I think there's some great opportunities with the market coming. I don't think we'll see the market. It's what you have to pay attention with the market is, it's going to go up 300, it'll come down 200. It'll go up 200, it'll go down 300. It's going to be up and down all through the summer, but there's great opportunities. And when we see, and the market is a predictor of 6 months down the road. So we feel a little bit more with investment. I do feel if you've got a low financing on your home, good for you, because the rate is still ridiculous as far as return on anything like a checking account or savings, but I think that will change too.
I'll tell you, Jim, on that subject, when we're coming to the end here on that subject, I'm getting beaten to death in my business here, and I am I'm keeping up my spirits because I have no choice, really. I would love to have something change.
Well, how's diesel's gas?
Gas is okay. I'm getting beaten. I had a bunch of repairs. I still have repairs, and the money is way down.
Mm-hmm. The amount you're delivering and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm still putting in hours. It's just that it's not translating into actual dollars. And then when I do have dollars, I had record repairs last year. I made less than I have ever with owning this truck, and I've spent more in repairs than I ever had. Mm-hmm. By a lot. So I'm trying to be positive about this, but it'd be nice if you saw some.
Well, I really like your new radio format. I like your new radio format a lot. It feels much more professional than it ever has before for you.
Not like that crap I was doing before, huh?
I remember the one show, Jim, just talk. And I said, what? I said, okay,
yeah, one time I had to go. So
yeah,
I don't know. You could have said whatever you wanted to. Luckily.
Yeah, I was trying to get some numbers and stuff, but that didn't work, so that was okay.
My dog's doing good, though. My dog had to have surgery because he had a very large prostate. And I can't tell if the prostate's shrinking because it's inside him, but he recovered from the surgery and he's doing good.
Good.
So I've been giving him a salt palmetto for, they have a doggy drop thing. And about 6 months, the doctor said it's a good time to take another x-ray to see how it's doing.
Mm-hmm. Very good. How old is he?
He's 13. It's a Jack Russell Poodle mix.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. Those guys stick around for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he's doing better. And how is
Lucinda?
Lucinda, I knew it was.
Yeah, she's had a tough time with the dog thing, though. And I ended up getting another dog for her to try and, I figure, while Charlie's still around, he can show him the ropes, so to speak. And at the same breath, Charlie will leave someday. And so what I wanted was some kind of a Russell in there. I don't care, because Charlie's a Russell poodle, and Russells have brains. You know, they're interesting. They have consciousness.
They have an intenseness about them.
So what we ended up getting was I left it to her, and she, of course, kind of gut reacted, and she got a Russell Fox Terrier. But when we actually looked at the paperwork, the one parent is full Russell, and the other parent is half Russell, half Fox Terrier. So we got a short-legged, a shorty Russell, and I've never seen a bundle of energy in my life like that dog. I mean, it jumps up onto the counter, not the counter, the couch, not the couch, the lounge chair, leaps off the arm. I mean, we're talking, I don't know, 6 times its height, leaps to the ground and keeps running. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. They're intense. They will watch. They'll focus on a squirrel outside, or they'll focus. They need to have. It watches TV.
Feeling. Yeah,
I literally put on some video of other Jack Russells. I didn't realize they have races where they do stuff. He was intently watching the races. So,
yeah, they need to have a chair by the window that they can look out when nobody's home.
All right. So it's been very intense for her with the dog and all this stuff. She thought the dog was dying overnight. I didn't think so, and it didn't. And then with this, and it's just been a lot. So.
Oh, where'd you find the dog?
Well, first off, I've bought a dog in 13 years. Okay, so when when she went looking for dogs, and I was watching what she was doing, get ready to have about $2,000 in your pocket to go buy a dog. I'm like, what? You used to get a dog from a guy down the street. Had puppies. You go to
a flea market, and they were there. Yeah.
No, they got all kinds of rules and whatnot. And if you try to adopt a dog, these are dogs who are saving, right? You try to adopt a dog, they have to come inspect your house and see if it's okay. I'm like, what? So anyway, this worked out where there was a store in Indiana, right over the border in, I can't think of the name of the town now, Hammond, I think it was. And they deal with breeders, but, like breeders like would be me or you type of breeders.
Yeah, right.
And they had a lot of 4, and this was the last one. And I think it was the runt. And it was kind of withdrawn, and we got it home, and within a day, no more withdrawn. But it took a while for our dog. Of course, our dog was healing from surgery. But only yesterday, this has been now 2 weeks, at least probably 3 weeks. Only yesterday was the first time that they actually, Charlie, the older dog, and Molly's the name of the other one, they actually interacted where Molly, what would be the word? I don't want to say coward, but you know how they belly up for submission?
Pecking order.
And then
Pecking order.
And then Charlie went like, all right, okay, fine. So now they're like sleeping next to each other or whatever, So it's like they got this structure down pat. The 2 cats we have got the structure, The one cat we have is an older, big, the cat's like 25 pounds, right? And he just kind of, doesn't play with him, but he allows him to kind of play with him a little bit, He's kind of a big, loving, tubby kind of, goes along with everything cat. But the other cat is nowhere near him. It's like, I don't want nothing to do with this at all.
The older cat is very psychic.
Yeah? Yeah, Sammy.
Oh, yeah. Intense. I mean, he'll sit and watch things that aren't there.
Well, he does sit and stare, and I have talked with it. It's funny, I could talk to the cat, and I'll say his name, and he'll look at me, and I can say his name, like, oh, Sammy, like that. He'll start purring. It's like I'm petting him, like, sonically, but maybe I'm petting him psychically.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely. And as a matter of fact, he was probably the first one that told you the dog wasn't feeling good.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't catch it then.
Yeah, because it was.
But he does, like when the dog would yelp or something, he'll come running.
Yeah, he was aware there was something going on with the dog when you had the
So now
problem.
when this little dog was playing with Charlie and growling and bark, Sammy was up looking like, what's going on? What's this new guy doing?
Yeah.
So
Hey,
anyway, I
so
probably don't want to bore everybody with this stuff.
No, but it's what's so important. One last thing, it's really important that we find sublimeness in our life. And people say, "What's this? What does it mean to be sublime?" I don't understand that word. Everybody's heard this word, but they don't understand it. If we can find 3 things during the course of the day, like you can see your dog, you can see the cat mixing with the dog, you can see some yellow tulips outside, and reconnect with those 3 sublime things when you go to sleep at night. The brain will work on sublime instead of worry about what's going on in Syria, what's going on in South Africa, in the Sudan, or whatever. And once you sleep in sublime, you get better rest, and your next day you're going to find 6 things that you find, and then you run over the sublime energy, and it changes everything for you.
Yeah, I like that idea because I do notice when I do kind of take a break and I'll notice something that's like you're saying, like I was driving and I saw this cloud formation. It was quite impressive. It wasn't it was just cool looking. It wasn't like it was a storm or nothing. But it's true when I break away from the kind of you know what? Here's a phrase I'm going over here, but I'm the boss, right? The phrase I found myself using is that people say, "Oh, how are you doing? How are you going through things? How are you taking what's going on?" What I'm trying to do is go through life using my peripheral vision rather than using my straight ahead stuff. Now, when I drive a truck, when you're driving down the road, you're not looking at anything, really. You're looking at nothing and everything. And I use my peripheral vision, which is more sensitive. It's not smart. All it does is go, something over here, and then you have to look over there, and then you could use your brain. But your peripheral vision is much more sensitive, and yet it's general, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go through life looking at a peripheral vision of life. And I think what you're saying is through that peripheral vision, you could notice that, we got some irises that are going to be coming up soon. And every year I like it. I take pictures of them because they're very, very nice color. And it's when I see them, I just kind of look like, wow, the same world, the same system that created this iris, made the sun. And it's, I don't know, it's just kind of fascinating. It sounds kind of corny, but I get what you're saying.
I had an experience today. We've had all this rain like crazy and stuff, as you know. And I was driving to my house, and I went around the corner, and I thought, what was that? And like you said, it was like in my peripheral vision. So I went around the block because I know I saw something, but I didn't know what it was. And there was a whole bunch of ducks swimming in our ditch down the street. I mean, it wasn't like 1 or 2 ducks. There had to be 12 male ducks and a couple female ducks, and they were just swimming around in an area that was never a place for them to swim. I thought, whoa, that's cool. I'll think about that as one of my sublime things. And it really, really brings us back to what's really important. And part of our problem is everybody's seeking answers to life. But what we have to seek of is solutions. But we have to come to the solution for ourselves first before we can find solutions in the world. Yeah, okay. Okay, kid, I'll talk to you next month.
All righty. Thanks, Jim.
Talk to you later.
Bye. All right. I'm looking in the chat room. I was busy talking with him, so I'm looking in the chat room to kind of purebred Russell School for 14 years, not sure about poodles. Yeah, poodles are longer, so they can go, that's why they say about 12 to up to 8. Poodles are like 18 to 20, so you got that extra little thingy. Try being retired, James, and having disabled spouse. Yeah, that's... I know whatever we can come up with, someone's got it more challenging, so, They are fearless. I had a male. Okay, I'm looking through the... ran under a horse while walking. The horse decided to pee on him. Oh, boy. Cats are funny. The guest is blocked or just has memory issues, as we all do. Okay? I don't know what that was for. Get that dog to pick lottery numbers. Instrumental music for deep sleeping. Do it, Dwighter. Yes, I've had several Dwighter CDs. Very good stuff. I liked it. Real positive. I'll put it in the background while working. Now that you mention it, I got to dig some out because when I moved here like 7 years ago, I still got most of my CDs packed up because I've always been doing something. So thanks to the folks in the chat room for hanging out and being with this. I do these shows. Mostly I do a lot of the serious stuff. You know, you've seen it. But I like to have these light talks. It's fun. It's nice. And we did talk about some heavy stuff too, but still, you know, so I appreciate those who hung out at this part of the show. Well, I hate using the word show, broadcast, because it's all real in terms of there's no planned showmanship here. So anyway, send me, you know, do all that stuff, the liking and commenting and all that. It works to help things and whatnot. And also, I have to bring this out again. I got a mug that I had made years ago for the show. Kind of cool, I thought, anyway. I don't know if anybody might be interested. I mean, I don't make any money. I just charge whatever it costs to get it done. If anybody's be interested in this, I'll pull it out. And you can get it right now from Cafe Press, but I'm looking for another place because it's a little smaller. You can see my mug, which I've had now for like 13 years. You can see that it's bigger, you know. I like a bigger cup, so I'm looking to maybe doing something like that, though. But I want to bring this up. Lionel Nation has got his mug up there, so I wanted to bring this out. I did this on how many years ago. And it's still, you know, road to truth via the path of non-contradiction. It's got the old website there, but got the links going to the new one, too. So I appreciate for those who are participating and enjoying in this stuff. Let me know information and what you think. Let me know about Jim and all this stuff. Is this something that you'd like to see? Because I could bring him back anytime, really, every month. It's been a while since we had him last time. I'd like to know what you think, because I am doing this for all of us. You know, so, all right, take care. And we will see you again next week, provided there is one. To use Les. Oh, by the way, Les is on the road. The Les Visible didn't have a commentary this week. He wrote me saying he just got to Arizona. So we'll probably have something next week. So he's okay. It's just one of those deals. So hang in there, and we'll see you next time on the